Hey, what's up, everyone? It's your girl, Keemah.G. Who else would it be? And I'm back with another episode of the Keemah.G podcast. We are on to episode 20. And as you guys can see from the title, I'm talking about a transformative time in my life, which was also a very lonely time in my life because I was in a lot of solitude for a very long time. So I'm going to get into this episode, and I'm hoping that it could definitely speak to people on their journey who are at a point in time where they feel like they're just in a moment where they're just really all by themselves. It could be tough, it could be challenging, but it's necessary. So let's get into the episode. So it has been at least 2 or 3 weeks that I made a video. And I didn't make a video because I wanted to get more prepared so that when I come on here, I will have a clear outline of the direction that I'm going in with these next episodes and beyond. Preparation is key, and I'm learning that. Y'all know if you watch the other videos, consistency has been my struggle throughout this YouTube and podcast. No, well, not podcast experience, but my YouTube experience. But now that I have this podcast, I'm really determined to share and have conversations that are very informative, educational, and empowering for you guys on your own journey. So this video today, I did an outline straight up. Like, I didn't want to miss any points. So I'm going to introduce the topic. And today it's about solitude. And what I'm learning and what I had to learn on the journey is that solitude is oftentimes misunderstood on this journey. When we reach a point in time on our walk with God and our healing journey, on our transformative journey, our journey of evolution, of growth, whatever you want to call it, there's a point in time where we are going to be by ourselves. And oftentimes it is misunderstood. And oftentimes people feel like it's an abandonment, and it's not an abandonment. It is actually the most transformative time of your life. It's like everything you've learned before and what you're going to learn after, you have to put into place what you've learned before. And sometimes you're like at a halt on your journey. You feel like, I'm not growing, nothing's not happening. I feel like everybody's fallen off, things are changing, and it could feel really lonely. So that season for me was painful. But the one thing that I'm learning is that it was the most important part of my journey. It was the most important part of my journey because I needed to be still in that moment. I really needed to be still. And looking back, I realized that God wasn't trying to punish me. Like, he was just separating me so that he could really, really, really heal me. And it didn't often feel good at all, at all, at all, at all. So like I told you guys before, I did an outline for this episode, and I'm really going to go through this outline because I spent some time to meditate on it, to go over it, and I really hope that you guys could receive exactly what you need to receive from this next video based on my own experience. I'm hoping that it could relate to you. So let's get into it. Many times what I've realized is that we're healing partially. We're healing partially because we're distracted by the noise, we're distracted by people, relationship, society activities, and the constant, like I said, noise that just vibrates throughout your mind and throughout your day. And what I have realized, as you guys all know, I'm a believer. I believe in God, I believe in a higher power, and I believe that healing is growing you closer to God. And the closer you grow to God is the more you're able to heal those wounds from childhood, from anything that you've experienced that's allowing you to keep you stuck. So God sometimes removes the external factors and voices so that you could really hear him and really hear his voice and his need for your life, you know? And that's what I had to learn when I was in that. Now when I'm looking back, that's what I had to realize, that it was necessary for me to be in that moment of solitude. Healing also requires honesty. Whether we want to believe it or not, it requires you to be honest with yourself. And Honesty is difficult when we're surrounded by others, because their opinions come into play. What they believe comes into play. And sometimes when we're often surrounded by other people and their opinions, we oftentimes don't, not that we oftentimes don't do it, but we kind of stray away from hearing that internal voice within. And that internal voice within is always right. It's always right. And if we listen clearly, we'll see exactly what it's trying to show us. And if we listen carefully, it will let us know exactly what we need to know in that moment. But oftentimes, because of distractions and because of being preoccupied with other things in life, we don't have that time to go and meditate and self-reflect. So that's why I say that solitude is necessary. And because we're always partially healing and we're not fully healing and taking that moment to close things off that are distractions, it takes us longer in the journey than we need to be. And that solitude moment is so necessary because you kind of tune everybody out, you tune out distractions, and you focus in and you narrow in. And there's so much that happens in that moment. So before I went into that moment of solitude, what was happening in my life, like I think I said before, was constant patterns. I was going through cycles that weren't healthy for me. I do know that I was dating someone and that didn't go as planned. And that took a lot of energy, I found, in those years. And I felt discouraged. I felt like I had learned so much from the time I started to do this work. So how the hell, am I still repeating certain cycles that I'm fully aware of, but that I'm not changing? And that was keeping me from a deeper healing because I was so committed and involved with people and relationships. And there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point in time, you really just got to close in and close off. And not as a cutoff season, but as a moment for solitude, as a moment for going within and just saying, okay, it's me and God right now. So God, show me what you need me to learn in this season. And it's not comfortable, as I said. It is very uncomfortable because the reality is we're humans. Like, we're here to connect with others, and it's okay to connect with others. But along this journey, there's a moment where solitude is necessary. The second thing that I want to speak about is the emotional reality of solitude. Like, whoo. And I'm going to be honest, and I'll always be honest and I'll always be transparent. But there is an emotional roller coaster that happens in those moments of solitude. So let's talk about the first one, loneliness. When we're in that moment, loneliness feels like, oh my God, loneliness feels so damn lonely. I don't even know how better else to put it. But you're gonna go through those emotions. You're gonna feel those emotions of loneliness. You're gonna feel fear. For me, overthinking of, and I don't mean overthinking and worrying, but I was overthinking of a lot of things from the past. And I constantly had to try and redirect my mind. And every time that happened, I had to draw closer to God and closer to God because I needed Him to renew my mind, because that's the process of healing. The renewal of the mind will renew the spirit. I also doubted God. I also said, like, what is this? I did all this work. I'm praying. I fasted. I did whatever. How am I still in the same spot? I felt like I had reached a stall on the journey, and I was just like, no, like I was doubting God and what He could do for me. I was also missing old relationships. I was missing old relationships. I speak about that in other videos where there was a time where God had shown me to let go of certain people. And in that moment of solitude, I was missing the old relationships because it was something I was used to. It was a comfort zone, right? I didn't understand the importance of season, reason, and lifetime. And some people played as a season, some people played as a reason, and other people played as a lifetime. And the concept of letting go was very, very difficult for me. So in that moment, and you're by yourself oftentimes, and it's just you and God, you tend to now reflect and be like, oh, well, I kind of miss them. I miss those fun times, and it's okay. What I know now, it's that it was a blessing. Every relationship was a blessing. It was a lesson. It's something that I needed in my life. But in that moment of solitude, when you're feeling lonely and you're used to certain type of people and certain type of friendships and relationships, you want that comfort. So I was missing my old relationships. What's another one? Question. Oh, this is something that I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you're going through that moment of solitude, you're probably questioning, is this really worth it? To go through all this emotional roller coaster, is it really worth it? I questioned myself that many times. And I thought of also reverting back to old patterns that I just worked through, and going back to places that I graduated from, especially in those lonely moments. Like calling that one person that you know is not good for your nervous system. You know what I'm saying, ladies. But yeah, I questioned a lot if it was worth it. I questioned a lot if it was worth it. And it was just a difficult moment. So I'm not going to act like the emotional reality of solitude is beautiful and it's easygoing. No, it's difficult and you're going to go through it. But what I'm learning and what I have learned is to sustain, persevere through those hard times, because after every pain of this journey, there is the reward at the end. And the reward is not tangible. The reward is not something that's fleeting or instant. The rewarding is everlasting, but you got to be able to persevere to make it through the end. You got to be able to persevere to figure out what that reward is for you on this journey. And if I'm correct, well, I'm correct about myself. I can't be correct about your own journey. The reward is always something that allows you to grow, to elevate, and to create more of a peaceful life for yourself. The reality is that I thought that I was getting worse in this moment of solitude. But what I'm realizing is that things were finally coming to the surface so that I could fully be healed, with what I needed to be fully healed with at that moment. So I don't have no regrets. And I still believe that that moment was so transformative. Like it was super transformative. Um, I'm thinking about other things I want to say, but let me catch my train of thought. What I want you guys to get from this episode is that it's important to normalize discomfort when you're on the process, when you're in the process of healing. Healing doesn't always feel peaceful. Sometimes healing feels like grief, you know? I think that healing, there is a part of healing that is you grieving over whatever it is you need to grieve. And sometimes growth feels like a loss before it could feel like freedom. And it was very hard for me to understand that in the process. But if I had knew that then, I think I would have navigated it differently. So this is why I share it with you. Um, it's going to feel bad at first. It's going to feel difficult at first to be in that moment of solitude. But once you get out of that moment, it's going to feel like freedom, and you learn and you grow and you get stronger. And I would never be the one to say this before. Like like I said in other videos, I stopped believing in God at a point in time. But the more I stayed in solitude, the more I focused on God and built that relationship with God, is the stronger spiritually I was able to get. And then on the external in this world, I was able to show up different. And this doesn't mean that I am perfect or I have everything figured out, but it just means that I no longer am a slave to the past or slave to my brokenness or slave to the things that were causing me to create patterns and cycles in my life that wasn't healthy anymore. And it took some time. So solitude is important. Solitude is definitely needed on this journey at some point in time in this journey. So if you're in it, sit in it, stay in it. Don't run from it, because I can't promise you. Can I promise you? I'm not going to promise you, because I'm nobody of that stature to say I promise you. But what I know based on my own experience is that it created more freedom of the mind, freedom in my heart, more healing, more growth, and more understanding of who I am, the purpose of my life, and what God created me to be. So, point number 3 on solitude, as I broke it down, what God was teaching me in solitude was identity, dependence on God, and emotional healing. When I broke it down, like identity was very important because in that process, when I am by myself and I'm letting go of friendships, I'm hearing from God and He's telling me that this is a moment that's just for me and you. I'm learning how to be apart from other people's opinions and finding my worth in God rather than in my validation in people. Whether we want to see it or not, oftentimes I think there's a healthy form of validation, and I think I've always had that balance, but there was a point in time where not just in people with external factors, there was validation for me. And God was teaching me to find my worth in Him and not in the validations of other external factors. Whether that means to be love, the acceptance of a man, friendships, work. Work is a big one. I was very much hustle, 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 bustle, bustle, bustle. He wanted me to understand my worth in Him and to understand that I am the daughter of a king. You know, was I representing that when I was struggling and broken and repeating patterns and cycles? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Took me a long road to understand my worth. Always knew that I had confidence. Of course, go out there and make money, go out there and be ambitious. Of course, I'm confident in that. But do you know your worth? So God was teaching me in that moment of solitude, and He continues to teach me that every single day because I don't have it down packed. But I'm way better than I was since 2014 when I decided to do this walk. I am way better than I was before. Another thing that He was showing me was dependence on God, dependent on Him. Learning to take my concerns and my worries to Him first. There was that moment where He showed me, you vented too much to the wrong people. You should have came to me first. Don't you realize every time when you don't meditate and you don't come to me in prayer about certain things that it doesn't really go the way planned out? God was trying to teach me, especially for a child that grew up, being told about God, forgot about God, came back to God. Like He was teaching me how to solely depend on Him for every area of my life. And have I mastered it? No. Am I in the process of mastering it? Absolutely. And is it paying off? Absolutely. Especially in these last few years. So developing my personal relationship with Him is what God was trying to teach me in that moment of solitude. And He was teaching me it. It only started to really play into my life over the last couple of years, not several, couple of years. Another thing He was teaching me was emotional healing. Recognizing unhealthy patterns is what He showed me from the beginning. But that moment when I got to just with me and Him, where the phone calls were less, the friendships were less, I felt like everything was just changing and I felt more lonelier than ever. He was also making me recognize the unhealthy patterns that I had created from the time I was a very young girl up until I had reached that point. Facing old wounds. That was part of the emotional healing part. Facing old wounds was, oof, oof. Facing old wounds was probably the most difficult part in that solitude moment. Because when the truth comes to light, it's not always easy to receive, And I had to sit there and I was like, God, I'm by myself. So why am I going through all of this emotional roller coaster? Like it felt like grief. It hurt. If I'm going to be honest, it hurt to be that by myself. And then COVID happened. like, but that actually prepared me for COVID. It's crazy, but it actually prepared me for COVID and learning healthier responses. When you are so, and I'm still working on this every single day to get better, I'm in the mastering process. When you're so easy to react emotionally, you were reactive instead of responsive. And in that moment, God was showing me all of the times that yes, you may have been right, but your reaction is what didn't lead to a more solution based result, you know? And that hurt too, because it's like, you could be on the right path, but you could still be doing the wrong thing because emotionally you're not at a good space. And I wasn't at a good place because of my past. So God was trying to show me all of this in that moment of solitude: identity, dependence on God, and emotional healing. And trust me, if you're at that stage, stay there. Like, stay there. Go through the process. It is hard, it is difficult, and cry it out. I don't care if you're a man or a woman, cry it out. No one's seeing you besides for God. Cry to him, plead to him, say, you know what, show me a different way, teach me the things, open up the eyes to my heart. There's a song that someone showed me that song years ago, and that was the song played throughout most of the time, every morning. Open the eyes of my heart, God. Like that, Lord. It's not God, but he says Lord in the music video. But anyways, that song for me was the song that I needed in that moment. I needed in that moment because it wasn't easy. I was a hot mess. I would say hot because I'm still cute. If we're going to use one great example, whether you're a believer or not, whether you think Jesus existed or not, but it makes sense. When he wanted to draw closer to God, he withdrew to a lonely place where he could pray. And that's what strengthened him. And anybody that that really understands life and has that clear balance of spirituality, understanding God, and showing up in this world, they will always tell you, like, when they want to understand something, when they want to do anything, whether you even if you don't believe in God, even if you are a monk or meditation or whatever. I'm not saying they don't believe in God, but I don't really know their religion like that. But whatever it is, they go to a place of solitude to find answers. So if you're in that moment and you're wondering why your friends are falling off, why God's telling you to do this, and you feel the loneliest, like you feel like you're all by yourself, maybe you're not all by yourself. Maybe God's just trying to show you that this is a moment of solitude between you and me. And in this moment, a lot of things are going to happen. It's going to be a little stressful. You're going to be a little sad sometimes. But trust me, after every pain, there comes reward. So this is the process. This is the deep renewal of your spirit that's happening. Right? Deep renewal of your spirit is happening in that moment of solitude, which is going to allow you to advance to the next level of your journey, which will be a better, more comfortable place. But you got to sit in some discomfort in solitude, and that's just what it is. You can't escape it. I tried to revert sometimes, say F it, but you can't escape it. You have to just go through the process. Take it from me, take it from my experience. The one thing that I'm learning is that God often develops people in private before he uses them in public. So I never thought I would be saying this before, but it's the truth. And it's the truth that I hold on to. And the closer I go to God is the more I'm learning that I want to follow in the will that he has for my life. Because when I did shit on my own, like, excuse my language, but when I did shit on my own, it didn't really always work out to be the best. And I'm learning to be more obedient. Okay? Your girl's learning, she's growing. How do you survive the season of solitude? Don't mistake solitude for failure. That's the number one thing that I'm learning. I think that a lot of times that when we're in that moment, we think that because I don't have the relationships that I used to have, because I'm all by myself, because I feel lonely and I'm going through all these emotions and I'm not at my best spiritually, that we failed. But being alone doesn't mean that you failed. It doesn't mean that you failed. It means that what I am learning and what I've learned is that it means that it's a moment in time of growth. It doesn't mean that you've been forgotten either. God did not forget about you. You understand? People did not forget about you. The works that you have instilled or you've done has not gone unnoticed. It's just that you need to focus on growth in that moment and not focus on failure. Stay connected to God daily. Stay connected to God daily. Whatever you use as your, I use God, I use prayer, but whatever you use as your daily connection to a higher source other than this world, stay connected to that. And I'm hoping that it's something positive. Okay. I know, like, sorry, I got to stretch. I know that because I'm a believer, I pray, I worship, and I've been journaling since I was a kid. So, and that's how I survived that moment of solitude. I prayed a lot, I journaled, and I listened to worship music. I had to put something in my spirit to keep me up, because it's not like I could get this keep up from people, because I wasn't really surrounded by people like that. I communicated with people, but surrounded by people, no. I was coming home every night by myself, driving home from work every night by myself. I was living by myself. I did not have nothing, not even like a dog me did have. I didn't even have a dog or a cat. I don't even like cats, but you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just me, what I need to do every day, and God. The third way to survive this moment is to feel your emotion. I allowed myself to feel that sadness. I didn't rush past the process. And I allowed myself to grieve, which is something that I wasn't doing before. And when you don't allow yourself to grieve, what I've learned from my own experience is that you grieve and you show it in different ways that you don't even know you're showing it. So in this moment of solitude, I felt my emotions. I allowed my emotions to seep through. And I said, I'm going to sit in them, because as I sit in my emotions and this painful, discomforting feeling, I'm going to learn and grow from this experience. I know I'm going to get better. Like I'll continue saying in this episode, it was not easy, but it was very much worth it. The fourth thing, keep growing. I don't care what it is, to get through that moment of solitude, you got to keep growing. So read things that are going to allow you to grow emotionally, spiritually, mentally, even physically, you know? I read a lot. I like you can't see all the books there, but I read those books, everything I was trying to learn about myself, you know, and I attended therapy. Yeah, I attended therapy. You know, I always advocate for therapy. I attended therapy, I did therapy, and I developed more healthier habits. All my people at that time that was around me could say, I eat bland food, I'm drinking alkaline water, I'm drinking my herbal teas every day. I took a lot of baths. If you know me, I love baths. But keep growing, keep creating healthier habits that's going to allow those healthier habits just to become your norm. So you don't have to pretend or fake, but the moment of solitude and that moment on the journey where you're just, why am I all by myself? This is so lonely. This is so uncomfortable. That is the case may be. Stay there. But in that process, keep growing, keep learning, keep reading, keep creating new, healthier habits for yourself. And that's how you're going to survive this moment of solitude. What was waiting for me on the other side? Better boundaries, more peace. What else? Stronger faith, a greater sense of self awareness. This is a good one. Healthier relationships, discernment, and increased confidence. And more importantly, especially in these last 2 years, is understanding my true worth, understanding the worth that is in me and why I am worthy. And that's what was waiting for me on this other side of solitude. The blinders were off, and I was able to see more clearer into how my past affected some moments in my life, and how I don't want to constantly live from that frame of mind. So the renewal of my mind is what actually renewed my spirit in that process. So things became more peaceful. It didn't become more